Welcome to Sparking Success with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron brings you conversations that spark innovation, cultivate leadership skills, and pave the way for your business success. In each episode, we delve into the dynamic world of business and leadership, exploring strategies, insights, and success stories that fuel your professional journey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sparking Success. I'm your host, Aaron Opalewski, and this is the show where we want to talk about real-life, actionable things that have been done, never about theory. Today, we're going to hit on something near and dear to my heart. That's the staffing market, and specifically the different styles of staffing contracts that you can put together and what we're seeing in the market and how it's shifting, not just this year, but over the last couple of years. So we've talked on this topic a couple different times or hit it on different episodes, specifically on some of the first episodes. So if you haven't listened to those, I'd recommend you go back and do that because it'll give you a little more context. I'm not going to rehash the whole episode. I'm going to just go through the different types and then what we're seeing in the market right now. So overall, when you look at the staffing market, like holistically, whether that be across North America or just across the world, the market is down overall for the last few years. I believe it's the last 3 years in a row that it's been down. The last full year where it was up was 2022. And there's a lot of factors at play with that. I think one of the biggest factors would be that at that time, people had a lot of extra cash that they were using to grow their businesses with some of the government programs coming out of COVID. So that was a part of the pop that was, I would say, like a manufactured pop to what was going on within the staffing market and employment overall, at least in my opinion, in 22. That's part of what created that kind of like bubble year. So I'm talking from the lens of like that's the global market. 23, the staffing market's been down, 24 and 25 from a percentage standpoint. So for us, we've been fortunate that throughout that time, yes, 22 was a great year for us, but 23 was an even better year. So was 24 and so was 25. And a lot of that is a testament to our team and the hard work and the effort that we put in and the dedication that we have to our clients and the craft and what we do. And the fact that whether it's down or up or whatever, it's a huge market. It's a huge market. And we're like a speck of dust in that market. So us, being able to capture more market share and, most likely for you, if you're listening in this too, unless you're at one of the big five, staffing firms, or workforce solutions companies, like you can go get more market share too. And that's a mindset thing and what you should focus on. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't look at this overall. So all those things are true, but what are some of the other things that I think tactically have helped us to continue to grow over that period of time? Well, it's not just playing in one style of placement. And so what are the different styles of placement? You got contract to direct, or kind of like historical, someone could be like temporary staffing. Now we don't do a lot of temporary staffing projects. We like doing, whether you call it try before buy or a contract to direct scenario where we're starting someone out on a contract and they're getting hired in long-term by the client. That's our bread and butter. We don't target, short-term projects or project-based work. Do we get some projects from, some of the clients that we bring in from the contract to direct system? Absolutely. But we're not out there hunting for day projects for sure, week projects, month projects. If it is a project-based thing for us, it's going to be a longer period of thing. Like we just had one that ran for about 15 months. That's a little bit different, but still the focal point for us in that area is to do contract to direct staffing. So that's what I would call one area. And that's the historic area of what the staffing industry has been built on, either temp labor or contract to direct. Second one being direct hire. We do a lot of that. We've talked about this before as well on other episodes. Like specifically, direct hire is great. We love it. It's amazing for cash flow. A lot of recruiting companies do it. It's the easiest entry point. It's pretty straightforward. It's a clean value add or it's not. and it's a low barrier of entry. It's not as capital intensive as contract to direct or temporary staffing, and it's pretty cut and dry. What don't you get with direct hires? You don't get any reoccurring revenue. You're as good as your next placement. So those are those two. Now we get into services, and this is really when we talk about 26, where I don't think the market's going there. I think it's been going there since probably 2022, at least in I guess that's my biased opinion, because that's where we started kind of moving this direction. So that probably means that the market's been moving there for even longer than that. But just, I can only give you my experience. Like, we've been moving in this direction since 2022. So what are some of the services, the workforce solutions that come into play? Well, we do BPO type services. So that's business process outsourcing for our clients. And that is both for clients that we do placements with and clients that don't use us for placements, but use us to do come in and function and help support or take over parts of their business processes, or improve them, or tweak them, or update them, or any and all of those things in between. That's been a growing area for us. It's been a nice add. It's been a fun thing to do with some people on our operations team, and turn that operations vehicle that we have into not just straight operations, but a revenue center as well. So that's one. Another one would be RPO, and we've talked about this as well, but RPO would be recruitment process outsourcing. So that's where you're either going to own a part of the recruitment process for a client, or all of the recruitment process for a client. It could be either or and anything in between. We're going to come back to this stuff in a minute. The other one would be SOW, statement of work type staffing arrangements, or just statement of work type arrangements, which could be full-on deliverables. It could also just be I'm not coining this term. It's one that people that we have coming in are talking to us about, but what is called like staffing with a bow. So it's staffing that's really layered under an SOW contract. So I want to focus most of this episode around the services side. So, we've talked about all of these to an extent. I talked a decent amount about contracted direct staffing, or temporary staffing, and direct hire staffing. And I'm going to come back to those, but I want to spend a little bit of time on the services end, because this is where, in my opinion, the market's been going. So where the overall workforce solutions industry from a holistic standpoint has retracted over the last couple of years, and the demand for temporary labor, I'm going to butcher this somewhat, but someone that I've been a part of their groups, and I respect them, and it's actually interesting to see them change their tune on this, because back when we first started doing RPO, they were pushing me on temporary staffing, which I still think is really important. We're going to get to that. But I just heard someone who I really respect and think has a good pulse on the industry. His name's Tom Kosnick, and I'd like to actually have him on the show. We need to do that. But Tom was just recently on a podcast at, I think it was Staffing World, earlier this year. And he was talking about how, for I think the first time in history, you got GDP going up, and that's usually an indicator of the staffing industry is going to grow. And temporary staffing, or temporary labor, is actually going down for the first time as GDP is going up. And I could be getting that wrong, but it's at least the first time in a while. I think it's the first time ever, though. So that's an interesting trend. It's something to watch. He goes on to say, and it was a really good episode. I don't have the name of it, but I'm sure you can find it out there if you go onto YouTube, is where I found it. But he goes on to talk about some of the services that are coming in, and that this is the direction that clients are going in. So that, and he specifically talked about RPO and SOW. So Tom, if you happen to listen to this, I'm glad you come along and join me on the RPO train, and that you're a little more bullish on that at this point. I know we had some pointed conversations around that, and I think it was probably 2022, maybe even 2021, as we're just starting to do some of that and seeing some wins. And yeah, it's fun to see your position change on that a little bit as you're seeing the market change as well. So for us, I think it was a blessing that we were doing some of this stuff, at that point in time. In some aspects, we got out ahead of it. In some aspects, we've learned now we could have just done way better on capitalizing on some of the good programs that we won in the RPO area specifically to kind of advance and grow that even more. So Tom in that episode just goes on to say that more clients are buying on that RPO side, more clients are buying on the SOW side, and I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. It's been a big part of our success, specifically over the last 3 years. It's been a way for us to elevate with our clients as not just a transactional, like a lot of staffing. It's very commoditized, and in the temporary staffing side, specifically in like the light industrial space, I mean, it's about as commoditized as you can get. And so I don't like playing in the transactional space completely. I don't want to go away from it completely because we're good at it. And not every client relationship is transactional, within this. But when you get into the RPO or BPO type stuff and you're coming on as an ability to kind of create customizable programs with companies, not only can there be good margins in it, but there's just the opportunity to find a way, this is from our lens, it's an opportunity for us to find a way to deliver value to the customer, to go the extra mile, to be more involved, to get to that trusted advisor status, which is we don't want to be at a transactional status. We want to move our way up through doing a good job with a customer over an extended period of time. We want to move to trusted advisor status. And these service programs give us the opportunity to do that. So RPO has been a big one for us. BPO has been really fun and something that is not as big for us from a revenue standpoint, but it's growing. And our retention rates are in the high 80s in this area, which is my favorite thing about it. And we're really focused on growing that area more and more over the rest of 2026. We're trending right now to grow that area about 25%. It's our fastest growing area right now on the services side. But there's a lot more. If we really are nailing it, we're going to grow that, 100% more, within a year. So we got a lot of work to do on that front. But those are the things I like about it. It helps you move from a transactional state to a trusted advisor state. Not just because you sell one program or show them that you can do something. The ability to move that to that status comes in you delivering good work, sticking to your commitments, honoring what you say, going above and beyond, and then finding a way to kind of double down on that and learn more about the customer and where you could help them out more. But that's what I love because you get the ability to do that on those programs. The one that I haven't talked about as much because I'm still learning about it, even though we've done probably the first services type thing we did was a SOW type arrangement. And we've done a couple over the years, but I'm learning more about that now as we've, made some hires that understand this a little bit better. And, we're really looking at our customer base and say, hey, where were we pushing for RPO or where were we pushing for a BPO or where are we doing direct hire or maybe it's temp labor and we should be going for an SOW style contract. So I don't have a lot to say on it right now because it's still very theory based for me. And again, that's not what the podcast is about. So that's me admitting in real time that this is the area that I'm learning a lot about and spending a lot of time doing research on, and then picking the brain of people that have done it, that have joined our team, that it's like, hey, how do we kind of ingrain this into conversations with our clients and not push it? Because I don't like talking about pushing it, right? Pushing it suggests that you're trying to push the agenda on something because you want to do it. No, I want to be aware of it and listen to clients and understand where it would be right and bring it up as the service offering that I think is right for the client. And so part of that is learning it first. So Would I like to be farther along on that sitting here at the time we're recording in late Q1? Yes. Do I think that we're learning a lot and that we'll pick up steam on that in the second half of the year? My goal would be in Q2 of this year that we start having more SOW style conversations with more of our client base rather than just a random conversation here or there. Yes. So these are the areas that are growing. Now, last thing I'm going to say on this, just because we're focused on growing services and I think the market's going there, and I'm just sharing you my opinion, you don't have to agree with me. Would love to hear it. If you see it differently, hear me out on this last part though. This does not mean that we're going to go away from contract staffing or direct hire staffing. We're actually growing those teams the most because it's our bread and butter. And again, it's back to that market share thing. We're a speck of dust. Be really good at what you do. Do the fundamental process. Have a system set up and attack that system every day. We have plenty of room to grow in that area. And we're seeing, when Tom recorded that, everything's, time stamped, right? So when Tom recorded that, I don't know, it would have been probably at least 6, 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. I don't know. I'm not sure. But it was a little bit ago. And we're seeing, we've had record headcounts not record headcounts overall, but ATH or all-time high headcounts for the year in the last couple weeks. And we're seeing uptick in orders, forecasting, programs, that as long as we keep doing what we're supposed to do and control our controllables, we think our temporary staffing area is going to just continue to take off. And that's in our projections over the rest of this quarter. Right now we're recording this in Q1 for Q2, and then as we go on throughout the year. So by no means does that mean that I think that contract staffing or direct hire is going away. I completely disagree. Now, I do recommend you do some research on which jobs are growing and which ones are potentially getting cannibalized. Some of our shifts or kind of like lumping some things together have tied to the research that we've seen around some of that stuff. And I think we talked about it in an episode or two ago as it related to AI displacement and some of the jobs that we think it's going to do that with, knowing that everything we said, when we look back in a year, we might get 1 or 2 of those things right, and we'll be like, man, we were off on 5 others. But I think we talked about in our professional services area, our executive search group started executive search. We've added finance, and we decided to move all professional services under that group. One, because it got them to a great, requirement load to fill, like a good pipeline. But as we're seeing displacement of some of the lower level jobs and just watching what's happening, we had the capacity to do it that way. It wasn't outside of that team's skill set. A lot of times they're interacting with similar departments kind of up and down the chain. And that's been a good thing to keep that area growing for us here in 2026. It's actually outside of BPO. It's one of our other biggest growing areas on the actual staffing and direct hire side of things. So what are the takeaways? For me, it would be, we look at ourselves not as a staffing and recruiting company. We look at ourselves as a workforce solutions company. And why do we frame it that way? And what are we focused on within that? It's selling services to clients. What are services that are value added to clients? And for us, the focus is on that, our BPO, RPO, and SOW style work. You might have some other ones. You might have some different service offerings. There's a lot that can go into BPO specifically, as it could be any business, process. We do a lot of HR related stuff since we're very close to the sun on that, have a lot of experience, worked with almost 1,000 different HR departments or lack thereof, depending on the client situation. But that's how we lean. You might have a different niche within that niche, and you probably do. And I would suggest you lean into that. What did I say secondarily? Doesn't mean that we're taking a focus off kind of what is still our core business and what's been the core of this business, which would be placement. And that is both on the contract to direct, contract, project based, call it temporary staffing, and then the direct hire side. So if you're in the recruiting and staffing space, if you hire anybody, if you know anybody that does any of that, I'd recommend that you share this with them. It's probably a 15-minute episode. If you're in the recruiting and staffing space, if you hire people, if you are running departments or involved in that, I think this is a good episode to get some context on what's going on and what we're at least seeing in the employment market overall across North America. Thanks and have a great day.